In the future, Highlander, Connor McLeod must prevent the destruction of Earth under an anti-ozone shield. Possibly one of the worst movies ever. I don't know. Highlander 2, The Quickening, is up next on Inside Movies. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Inside Movies. Today I'm joined by novelist Andrew Buckley, writer, illustrator GMB CHOMICHUK, and all-around good dude John Bauer. Thanks guys for being on the show. Today we're talking about this piece of shit, Highlander 2, The Quickening. This was not my idea to review it, so let's get into it. What is the good, if any, in this movie?
Jet boots. Jet boots are good.
No, they're not. Not when they move that fucking slow. They're the slowest jet boots in the entire world.
Oh my god.
Jet boots are good. That they're aliens. Surprise.
That's not good.
That's
That's
not
fucking
good.
terrible. I have one good thing on my list, and it is that Michael Ironside acts his way over the top through the entire damn movie.
Oh, yeah. When has he not? Michael Ironside is an institution. Yeah.
I have a quote here from Michael Ironside about this movie, which is worth hearing. He said, "Yeah, listen, I hated that script. We all did. Me, Sean, Chris, we were all in it for the money on this one. I mean, it read as if it had been written by a 13-year-old boy. But I never played a barbarian swordsman before, and this was my first big evil mastermind type. I figured if I was going to do this stupid movie, I might as well have fun and go as far over the top as I possibly could. All the eye rolling, the foaming of the mouth was me deciding that if I was going to be in this piece of shit like this movie, I was going to be the most memorable fucking thing in it, and I think I succeeded."
Well, I mean, he's proven it right here. We brought him up. Oh,
yeah,
man.
I thought he was. So in the
not wrong.
positives, I have basically two things. The cast. So Michael Lambert, say what you will about him, but he's got a presence about him. He sure reminds me of Thomas Jane, the Punisher actor.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
That's
You're
so
right.
nice.
I never
Big
thought
time.
about that. They look identical.
Thomas Jane is this generation Christopher Lambert. And that's a compliment. Wow.
Yeah, so you got
Sure.
Christopher Lambert, you got Sean Connery returning for some reason. I don't know. But I always loved Sean Connery, even in this garbage movie. He's still somewhat entertaining. Michael Ironside, great villain. Not that he's a great villain in this movie, but he plays a great villain in general. I like him in Total Recall, Starship Troopers.
You have the potty, Richter.
And Virginia Madsen. Candyman was like one of my favorite movies kind of growing up. And to see her in anything, I'm always like, yes, she's great. And so I was happy to see her, even though. And I got one other thing that I like. So I like the cast, and I also like the hoverboards. I'm a sucker for
those things. Yeah.
Hoverboards, flying. As terrible as those like henchmen villains are, and we'll get into that in the bad. The only real time I was entertained in this whole like stupid movie was that 5-minute battle that they had where old man Christopher Lambert is attacked by the two henchmen, and he like decapitates one by running over them with the subway or train car or whatever, and then he gets the other one with that rope. It wasn't good, but at least it was entertaining. And so those are like my two points, is the cast and that
That's a moment in the film where you're like, those stuntmen had a hell of a lot of fun that day.
That's it. Does anyone have any good to add about this movie? Like,
Not really. Let's go to the bad real immediately.
Just straight to bad, hey? All right. I struggled to write stuff down, but I feel you guys were just like,
I don't know if you guys
Lambert's
know
look is good though.
Okay.
Yeah, he's hamming it up.
Glasses, I think that's good. The rest of it is shit.
Okay, let's get into the bad. What did we dislike about Highlander 2, The Quickening?
Now, I know Andrew is usually our trivia guy, but I have a little trivia about Highlander 2, The Quickening. It originally had a different subtitle. It was Highlander 2, Cocaine Overtakes Hollywood. which I think is basically what is going on in the production of this film. I don't know this for a fact, but there are certain telltale signs that poor decisions are being made and lots of money is being wasted and being misdirected in other directions, shall we say, in the course of making this film.
Oh, it did.
Really?
That's true.
Now, you do have some actual facts, Andrew.
Oh, I have legit facts about this stupid ass movie. So the director went after Highlander. He directed Highlander, and then he went on to continue directing music videos. Didn't do another feature until Highlander 2 came up, and it was partially because Lambert was actually really interested in sequelizing because he had so much fun on the first one. But he would only do it if Sean Connery came back because they became really good friends, which is why Sean Connery was written into this movie for no apparent reason. And the whole production was moved to Argentina to shoot it. While they were shooting it, the Argentinian economy collapsed completely. So the budget for this movie was something like 40 million, and it was double what they ended up spending on it in the end. And in the end, the insurance company that had the movie insured was getting so worried about the economic collapse that they started rewriting the script and giving them notes, which is why we ended up with this movie that we have today. And the director ended up walking up the set. It was an absolute shit show disaster. And as soon as Connery and Lambert arrived in Argentina, they got involved in like 30 different investment scams. And Lambert lost like a shit ton of money, like a ridiculous amount while shooting this movie.
Oh my goodness.
It was a mess from start to finish. There's nothing good about it. The original script kind of got thrown out, and then it just got mashed together. And there are now currently 3 versions of this movie. The one that we all watched was the Renegade version, which didn't really actually mention that there were aliens. It mentioned that there were immortals in the far, far past. And their punishment was that they were sent forward into the future where they would have to fight, their battle or whatever.
Yeah, but
the original version I saw was straight up aliens.
In the original version, it was aliens. It got re-edited as the Renegade version, which is a director's cut kind of thing, where they were in the past and Zeiss, the planet, was removed entirely.
But in Highlander 1, we see Connor McLeod meet Sean Connery's character for the first time. Ramirez. Yep. So then why are we seeing them in the past before those events already knowing each other?
Because they're supposed to have forgotten all that, apparently. And McLeod only remembers the opera at the beginning of the movie. That's him suddenly remembering that he's an alien and that they had this rebellion, and that's where he met Ramirez and all that kind of weird ass shit that happened.
Lambert's like old man voice at the beginning of the movie. Is that like just comically bad?
Don't worry about it, Jimmy. It's okay. It's so terrible.
Oh my god. On my own podcast, Super Pulp Science, we talk about how books get made and writing gets made and genre gets made. And one of the rules that editors, when they're reviewing slush piles, right? If they open a book and it has a prologue, they almost immediately know that it's not for them. This movie begins with a prologue, and it just tells you right now, like, here's a whole bunch of backstory we don't have time to fit in anywhere else, and we are not skillful enough to write into the film, so we're going to front load it. This movie needed an editor real bad.
Oh, it needed more than that. Every time freaking
I don't think an editor could save it.
No chance.
You can make a 10-minute version of this movie that's great.
Oh,
Highlander 2, the short film, the quickening, because it's like quickly finished.
Super quick.
Yeah.
Every time Connery's on screen, there are bagpipes. He's not even Scottish. His character's not even Scottish. Like, it makes no fucking sense. He materializes on a stage in Edinburgh. Nobody bats an eyelid. There's so much weird shit that happened in this movie.
Oh my god.
That stuff is comically bad. You know what's not comically bad is this ozone layer story. Who gives a fuck about this? It's just so boring.
This is why we're in the climate crisis we're in now, George. Is because people don't give a shit about the ozone shield. It's people like
topical. It was topical at the time. It was a huge thing at the time.
You didn't learn the lesson of Highlander 2, The Quickening, and we're in this mess now.
This is just bad. And the eco-terrorism that Just like no one cares about this. It's so boring. Like just get to the head cutting
Also,
off.
the
I
They didn't get to that
like the
fast
fact
camp.
that they came up with eco-terrorism. That's cool. The rest of the movie, like I said, yeah.
Yeah, and who's the main eco-terrorist? The hot chick, definitely. That is, she screams eco-terrorism. That just Virginia Madsen. Also, when he comes back, when he ends up being young again, like she watches him from a dumpster kill two porcupine-looking motherfuckers, and then explodes in a ball of flame, walks out, still fully clothed, young, and then he goes and nails her up against an alley wall. They don't make out; they have sex up against the wall.
It is not a good film. It is not.
Oh,
a good
Makes
film.
no sense.
Yeah.
So bad.
Yeah,
Making me
those
cry.
Katana. That was the bad guy. His name is Katana.
His name is
And-
Katana. Very confusing.
Like-
Well, listen, if katanas are cool, and Highlander 1 proved that, somebody in the rewrite is like, if katanas are cool, people like katanas. What should this guy name? His name should be. His name should be Katana.
His henchmen are just like they're literally like video game characters. Like you know, like how Bowser has like all his like sons and
man.
you know daughters and stuff like that you fight in
That's
like
a
the early
perfect
levels of
comparison.
Mario. That's who they are.
When
That's
was
a
this
good
movie
description.
When was this movie made?
91.
When was Mario Brothers made?
Oh, 89, 90, 91.
There's
Like, around those times.
you might not be wrong in the inspirations here. You know what isn't utter garbage? What is in fact entertaining, where the action pays off, where the monsters are worth following along, and where the writer is not hopped up on cocaine? It's Cover of Darkness. George, why don't you tell us about it?
Cover of Darkness is available to order right now from Source Point Press. It's like Game of Thrones meets Universal Monsters. It's about a family in medieval Romania. They get separated from each other and they encounter vampires, werewolves, the mummy, creature from the Black Lagoon, and a steampunk Atlantean Frankenstein. We have a lot of fun exploring this world. Within our family, we've got twins, shape-shifting boys that can turn into animals. So you get gorillas fighting werewolves. It's a fun comic book series. And I encourage everyone to ask your comic book store to bring this in for you. Cover of Darkness from Source Point Press. I think the comedy in the movie is atrocious. Like, it's just not funny. They give us like a montage scene of like Sean Connery getting a suit made for some reason, which he pays for with an earring.
His earring. Mm-hmm.
It's just, it doesn't make sense. B, it's not funny.
Wait,
And
you don't take earrings at shows? Like if I take my earring out, you won't give me some comics?
I will not even give you a $4 comic book for your earring.
Come on.
Whoa.
Gold, I promise.
And then he buys a plane ticket to America.
Yeah, with the change, I guess.
I assume he got cash back from
Yeah,
the clothing store.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You know what this movie is also guilty of? Is young Gregory. Poor young Gregory. I don't even know how old I was when I first saw this movie, but I remember realizing I'd been lied to. I'd seen a trailer for it and been like, cool, Highlander 2, yes, at last. Highlander 2, yes. And the movie promised me it would be good. Highlander 2 may be the point in my cinema experience where I realized trailers can be totally full of shit. And they can just tell you a thing is good, and they're not serious.
So, okay, one thing that was like really disappointing to me about this movie, because I just watched Highlander and Highlander 2 like this week in preparation for this video here, and I'm watching Highlander 1, and while not a great movie, it's a movie. This, I don't know
Take that back.
This I would not call much of anything. And I was thinking about, well, hey, I wonder what they're going to do in Highlander 2. And I started thinking about, like, well, what would I do? And so I'm watching Highlander 1, and I'm like, well, Sean Connery is cool. I get why they wanted to use him again. He's got this, like, tragic love story where he got this sword, and the love of his life was murdered. Well, who was she murdered by, or why did she die? And I'm, like, trying to come up with, like, a story. Like, I'm trying to think, well, what is Highlander 2 going to be about? And I thought, okay, well, probably the villain or the person who killed his wife is like this really bad dude. So you could have these scenes with Sean Connery fighting this bad guy, you know, getting the sword from his father-in-law, and then the bad guy killing his wife. And then that bad guy comes up again, in 1991, and it's up to Christopher Lambert's character Connor McLeod to avenge his friend's wife's death.
Is he still named Katana?
Yes, that keep that. Why not?
I like your sequel idea. I mean,
Yeah, Highlander is
Yeah.
a franchise actually that there aren't too many other people's franchises that I'd love a crack at doing a revision of. Highlander is on my list. I would love to do a Highlander graphic novel or story.
The
Well,
thing
I think-
about that is you're guaranteed to make it better than the original.
pretty much. I think
So
I think the remake they're gonna do is probably gonna be really good. I mean, Cavill's amazing. That director's amazing. If they had some actual legitimate story behind the mythos behind this,
I want less story and actually good sword fighting.
the
I want
sword
both.
fighting in this one is really bad too.
oh, it's worse.
It was worse
Way
than the
worse.
original.
Yeah.
Okay, in this one, Christopher Lambert refused to use plastic swords and wanted only real swords until they chopped off Michael Ironside's thumb, and Christopher Lambert suffered an injury to his hand, and I think
They
Michael-
cut off Ironside's thumb.
Yeah,
making
it was-
quickening?
Yeah, it was, and then they're like, okay, we'll use plastic swords. Like there were 3 major injuries that occurred in the course of 2 days. When they're like, okay, we'll just go back to using the plastic swords.
Wow.
Ironside didn't walk off the film.
No, he's such a badass. They just wrapped it back up and carried on.
They just sewed his thumb back on, or what?
Yep.
Or
It was
does
a
he
big
not
deal.
have a thumb?
No, it was. I think they cut it down to like it was hanging kind of dealio.
Okay,
There's
I
some
have
kind of
a bit of
thing
a fun fact that you guys definitely don't know about me and my family. My dad cut off his thumb welding in Greece in the 1970s, and at the time they didn't have like skin grafting or this sort of technology, and so they took his cut off thumb and they put it into his abdomen for months, and what grew around his thumb looked like a meatball. And so my dad had a meatball thumb. He still had like the 2 joints here, but no fingernail meatball.
What is going on right now?
Wow.
Yes.
Arguably, that was a
Wow.
more entertaining story than Highlander 2: The Quickening.
That's
But
10 times more interesting than Highlander 2's
Yeah.
entire film length.
Now that's a quickening.
that is a quickening.
Holy smokes.
So there you go.
Crazy.
All right, let's give grades for this piece of garbage. I'll go first. Why not? I'll give it an F. This movie stinks. Don't watch it. That's it. End of story.
Under rating, I just wrote unrateable. I can't deem it with anything. I'm afraid it's just too bad.
Sub 1 out of 5.
Sub 1.
I don't even know what to say about it. It's like, oh my God, you guys have said everything that fits with this film. It's just like, anyway.
Greg, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna do this? How are you gonna creatively rate something so low?
It's so low. It's so low. It's I'll give it 1 thumb up from Michael Ironside.
1 removed.
Oh
Removed thumb.
Because 1 thumb is down, way down, all the way on the floor. For this movie.
Well done.
Oh my God. Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for another episode of Inside Movies. I've been George Michail. It's been Andrew Buckley, John Bauer, and GMB CHOMICHUK. Feel free to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, our podcasts, and Wordsmith Academy, and all these different things that we do. And Cover Darkness is available to order into your local comic book store. Ask them to bring it in for you. It's a cool new series. All these things are linked in the description of this video. So feel free to do that. And that's it for me. Peace. That was so that was an exit. I don't know. That was a good one. That's how it went.